I find I'm missing a little Marak in the intro now. I have to fix that. But I promise only a Duke episode. Let me get to that now. This episode is for married people. You're not just married, you're married wife. Not just people who just say they have a wife. It's for people that are married. What ring? For people that are married wife. Yes? So if you have your married wife, this is a good time to find your married wife and take her dancing. Thing to dance to.
Evening,
yes?
Whenever we dance, darling, it's like a romance.
And tell she this.
Because when you dip to make your stroke, is your hip does do the work. You have grace.
Yes?
Every move, shake your waist. Let me move, girl, work it up for me.
Work it up for me.
Work it for me.
Work it up for me.
Make it sweet for me.
Work it up for me.
Girl, do it neat for me.
Yes?
You gotta work it for me.
Work it up for me.
Spin it round for me.
Work it up for me.
Groove it down for me.
Work it up.
A little two-step.
Girl, this thing that you're doing,
Yes?
you don't know what you're causing. Feel my heart how it's beating. Oh God, you don't whine if you're whining. You hear? Work it up for me.
Work it up for me.
Work it for me.
Work it up for me.
Girl, do the thing for me.
Work it up
Yes?
for me.
Make it sweet for me.
Work it up for me.
It's the voice of a fellow named Kelvin Pope. We could talk about him for this whole episode. And this episode, as I say, this is for people with a married wife. It had plenty of advice. Duke was known as a man for bacchanal. You know, they say when you see Duke come with song, he's a bacchanal. I mean, he had plenty serious ones too, eh? But I feel I'm sticking to the bacchanal ones in this episode here. Because here it is.
Okay, people.
Right?
I want you to know something.
All right.
I'm not angry about the affair
Nice.
that my wife had with this man.
What?
I'm not angry. I'm hurt.
Right.
I'm disappointed.
Right. I understand.
But I'm a little bit happy.
What?
It's hard to say, but it's the truth. I'm a little bit happy
Right.
because now I know what she really is.
Okay.
And I'm disappointed that it took me so long to see it.
Right.
I eating, I drinking, I sleeping,
Right.
and work, start back to work, I'll get more money.
Good.
The truth is, my eyes open.
Good.
I didn't lose nothing. I lost something that I thought was valuable.
You didn't lose
But
something, you lost something.
Eventually, I see the true meaning of it.
Right.
I see the true value of it.
Okay.
And that's okay.
It's true.
That's okay.
Okay.
I'm alright.
All right. I'm glad to hear that, man. I'm glad to hear you're all right, man. This for all married man. Yes? What? Go. Tell them. Yes? Here.
Some big men does wreck their life
Because they don't trust their wife.
Big men does mash up their life
Because they don't trust their wife.
They leave for work, their wife fast asleep.
Yes.
But around the clock they making bobby. If she has to go to the lavatory, they hand in the
Toilet paper for she. Yes.
The more you watch is the less you see.
You can't watch a woman.
If unfaithful she might be, that won't solve the problem.
Yes.
Long before you said I do. You know the woman you're married to. You see something in broad daylight. You buy camera to look for it in the night. No, for happiness in life,
You have to trust your wife.
newsmongers making strife.
You have to trust your wife.
Your marriage lasts for life as long as you trust your wife.
Now listen, if you don't know this story, right, you have to be up to date and to keep up with this thing, right? I see a story going on wrong on the social, the MYOBs and the news before news and these people, right? And there's a man, this man who talking in the video is the woman husband, right? He put the people to sit down. This is the sweet man and the wife. This man put the sweet man and the wife to sit down. The sweet man still in the WASA uniform. And I don't know if all you remember in last Friday or one of them Friday after next, one of them Friday movies, right? That a man named Pinky. And Pinky catch Ice Cube and Mike Epps in his shop. Every time Pinky tell them talk and the man had to talk, he says, say one more word. You remember that scene? It was exactly like that. Listen, you had to go on news before news or MYOB and watch the video. That's my cousin. I can't play the video. I will get a reenactment, right? But I can't play the video. I say not our cousin, but the man was real calm, right? Wait, now, we didn't even introduce the episode. Welcome to episode 66 of the Sheppy podcast. Thank you for everybody who's been tuning in. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Thank you for everybody who listening on all the podcast apps. And thank you for everybody who watching on YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and turn on the notification bell, right? So anyway, the man put his sweet man and his wife to sit down and talk it out. He is a better man than me. The husband is clearly a better man than me. I tell all of my stories about the ignorancy and the stupidity that I put myself through back in the days when I find out little thing. You know what I mean? So he sit down very calmly talking to your wife and the sweet man. And I don't know that I had the belly to do that back in the day. I ain't saying no one talk to no sweet man neither. No, I talk about mine. You see, now if I had to go through that, let me and my wife work out that. We go talk, we go think. You know, there's always say it's not the horn, it's the echo. Once nobody ain't find out, that never happened. That is number one. So I ain't recording nothing to put on no Facebook with nobody, and only have me up on Instagram now talking to the sweet man. And knowing me time the conversation that me and the sweet man is friends. So I not doing that. But the man basically started to question the sweet man about him mashing up the family and thing. And every time the sweet man started to answer, the man say, shoo, 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 shoo. You don't have the right to talk. I said, but what the hell is it? The sweet man is a better man than me too, you know, because being real with all, I wasn't saying down there in no man house. Number one, if you too calm, I frighten. Anytime you calm so, and you trying to talk to me about thing, I frighten out the gate. You mustn't be so calm. Better get on bad and thing, and we could, I'll try and talk my way out of that. But when you're so calm, I looking to run out of it. But he's a better man than me because the man asking the question and he sit down there to say about, well, I'm guilty and I this and boy, me and answering all them sort of question. I kicking out. You and your wife had to deal with all this situation. I is the outside man and I still stay outside. I is not for no inside conversation and there's a whole debate about who do what and who I'm not putting myself through that. But again, you had to go and watch the whole video on MYOB because it's sad. I mean, I laugh at and thing, but it's not all of us went through this before, right? I'm talking to married men, right? Who are married wife. Yeah, everybody went through these things before. I mean, I ain't saying your wife nothing. I don't think I telling you nothing to put in your mind. Don't go and ask nobody no question. And when WASA come by you, it's water. I mean, they've come in to fix things with where water concerned, right? So the main, right? The main vein. But we went through these things, even if it's before, back in the day or whatever, we went through these things and all of us know how it's feel in the moment. But it's nice because all of we here now and you can look back and laugh at them things. If you can't laugh about it now, let me laugh at it during this episode now because I want to give all a reenactment of the thing. Because I can't play the clip. So here where it is the husband started to tell his wife no. The husband telling she this. What you say?
I want love, plenty love.
Yeah.
I want love, plenty love.
Oh gosh. all the man want.
Give me all.
I want all.
Give me all. I need all. And the music sweet tonight, see.
Oh, yo,
And
yo.
I'm pumping heat tonight, see.
Yes? Oh, yo,
Now you
yo.
come and love me. Tell me I want you to
Love me.
Okay, I'm gonna love you hard.
What?
Love you strong.
Yes?
Make you glad. Love you long. Come and love me.
Listen, that's all the husband asking for, I love the man. Say he come and he meet them kissing. And the sweet man brave too, because the sweet man, like he go on in the husband house, the man in his own place. The man say this good, he want $1,400 a month. I find for $1,400, you should take a $300 out of that 14 and go in the spot, man. Don't bring the man home. You know what I mean? You take him off for, man, I'll fix deposit for 30,000. Take a little 10% of that 30,000. And make that in your place to make a pacotina, man. Don't come home by the man and do that. So while he's singing, she will love. You know what the wife saying now?
Baila, baila, amigo, baila. Ha. Baila, amigo. But Gloria just to have a simple portrait.
Yes?
You make it big demand and won't cooperate. There's a lovely space by the fireplace I could hang it there. But then she declared you too unfair, man. I want
Hey, what the wife say?
right there. She said, hang it.
Jam it, nick it, well it's in the center,
Strike it.
in the center,
I like it.
in the center,
Hit it. Fit it.
in the center.
Hey. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I like it. I like it. I like it.
Ay, ay, ay.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I want it. I want it. I want it.
Jam it in the center, groove it in the center, move it in the center. Listen, this ain't nothing to be making no joke out there. I tell you, the situation's sad, you know. But I only doing this because I can't play the actual clip. It had too much of cussing. You know what the Horner man come and say after that? With all that talk and sorry, he's talking about sorry. And he means to mash up no family. Tell them.
Girl, like you really come out with tears. I see you doing whatever you please.
Yes?
Now you're in front of the band, you're tipping your chest, you're waving your hand, you're lifting your dress.
Okay.
Baby, how you have so much zest.
Yes?
I'm watching you
All night.
You're prancing up
All night.
You're dancing up all night. You're poking me all night. Provoking me, look.
If I only hold you tonight, it's thunder. I'm giving you thunder.
I'm going to make you tell me surrender. All is strong, you're strong, you're the
Thunder. I'm giving you thunder.
And when you see a start to perform, you're the
Thunder.
I'm giving you all night. You're prancing up all night. You're dancing up all night. You're poking me all night. Provoking me, look.
Listen, it ain't good to take serious thing and make joking about. I had to tell all you. Wait till the husband come back and say after that. Husband just have one request. Like all of we married man this have. Kind of. Hey, Duke make the chorus girl sing that, you know.
If you love me, tell me so.
Yes.
You don't love me, let me know. If we finish, let me go, but don't harm me. Girl, don't harm me. If you see a man you want, simply let me know in front. So I'm talking rather blunt. Girl, don't harm me. Girl, don't harm me. Threaten, harm me, but darling, don't harm me. Tell people you want me, but darling,
Don't harm me.
walk over here on me.
Darling, don't harm me.
Tell them you scorn me, but darling, don't harm me. You could promise to bond me, but darling, don't harm me. Pour water on me, but darling, don't harm me.
Don't harm me. No, the truth is, right? He's saying that in his song, right? Darling, don't harm me. That what man say, but it's our partner, man. I ain't gonna call the man name. A big full man to me when I was working in a certain telephone company back in the day. You know what I mean? He used to tell my story about he and his wife. He man say confess. He say he do his wife all kind of thing. Yeah, woman all about and all this kind of thing. Boy, he say a day when he reach home, like as he reach and he drive in, she had everything packed. And she ready to ride out. He telling me, he say, boy, as big man, he say, my nigga weak, I drop down on the ground, too. He say, horn my back, but don't leave me. So I feel man plenty more willing to take horn than they're willing to admit it. And my philosophy is this. Woman is horn more than man. And man is take more horn than woman. Now, I will tell you, like, if anybody who asks that, go say that is not true, right? Man wild and man is this and that. But you see, man is quietly. Because you could always know. If a man make a mistake, let me put it that way, and you have an outside child, the whole world know it's an outside child you have. Everybody know you went outside and now the woman, the whole village know. But let me be honest. There's plenty men who had children, a woman making children, their man fully well know it's not them child. And once they think quiet and nobody ain't saying nothing, everybody know in the village that the child resembling somebody, you know what I mean? That child resembling the neighbor. And think, well, man eating up that quiet. Once it's quiet, man hanging around and then not leaving for that. That's my philosophy. But Duke has something else to tell me here, you know? Just a message to all married man before we get into the business, right?
Some men just wait till the woman gone, or somebody pass and give them a horn. Then they hold their head and they start to mourn. Don't go, girl, I beg you. But all before that, they're busy, paying no attention to she. So Mr. Howie name pass nature take its course. Just so a good woman you lost. Not me, I does always say, treat your woman nice when she dead.
Yes.
Look at the lady feeling okay. Treat your woman nice when she dead. If you don't want she to go and play, treat your woman nice when she dead. Treat your woman nice. Give she all your spice. Otherwise some man going to take she away. Treat your woman nice when she dead. Love she plenty, I know she goes
Treat
treat
your woman nice when she did. Oh, yeah. Listen, Mighty Duke, I tell only we have an episode to do about Duke, you know, so I say let me open the episode and deal with Duke one time because Duke is the only Calypsonian, just so people know, that win 4 Calypso monarchs straight. Nobody ever repeat that feat. I don't know if it's something that people could repeat, right? So the years is from 1968 to 1971. The first year he win with What is Calypso and Woman Bacchanal. I'll play Woman Bacchanal before we close off this segment. And then One Foot Vizina, easily one of my favorite Duke. I should be able to play that before we leave here too. Black is Beautiful. If you know, Black is Beautiful. I'm black and I'm proud. Black is Beautiful. He come and he win again with Brotherhood of Man and See Through in 70, and then in 71 Mathematical Formula. And Melvie and she neighbor Yvonne always having competition. Melvie and she neighbor Yvonne always in some big confusion. Melvie and Yvonne is something I hear my father and them singing back in the day. I wonder if people know it, like 10 pound of flour, mark 1, 5 pound of onion, don't mark none, 5 pound of sugar. Look, you're writing too damn slow, son. Padam, padam, padam. It is one of the hardest songs to find online. I'd actually find a version of it that he had do live. But somebody, and Duke generally, like, you might find a lot of artists recorded on YouTube, but Duke is one of them artists who, or Calypsonians, who, their career span a long time. So when you're looking for the songs, because think of it, if he went from 68 to 71, some of the ones people might be more familiar with is, well, Thunder is one people know. If I only hold it tonight is Thunder. That was Road March in 87. So some people who listening to this might know that from when they were small. And then you have, there's a few more that I'm missing out, but he sang all into that modern era, late 80s, maybe even early 90s. Duke was still releasing music. So he spanned a long career. Like somebody, I like to talk about Marshall and Iwan Super Blue as people who spent decades in the art form. Duke was one of them people when you look at how long he would have produced hits for. But he was known as the Bacchanal Man. And I was talking about this in an earlier episode about Duke and his ability to dress. Every time you see Duke, he looking sharp, saga boy, Calypsonian. But when it comes to woman, Bacchanal and thing, Duke was the man on top of that. But if you remember the way Calypso Monarch structured, you had to kind of find a way to sing a serious song and a commerce song. So you had your humorous calypso or your bacchanal thing or your wine and jam, even if you could get through that wine and jam. But you had to have a piece of political commentary or a piece of seriousness to go with it to be able to win. So, I mean, the people who competed in the time that he win that for, he was still around Kitchener and Sparrow and Pretender and them still competing in the Monarch at that point in time. I'm not sure if Chalk Dust would have been around yet because Chalk Dust have the most, right? Chalk Dust have the most Calypso Monarchs. I think just after him might be Sparrow. But to win 4 straight back-to-back, and then he in that elite class of people who win a Calypso Monarch and a Road March as well. So salute to the mighty Duke, and that's what this episode is about. We're saluting Duke up front. Sometimes I wait till the end of the episode to play the Calypso, and then by the side in this time, let me play it up front. Because I realize, based on YouTube, that some people just jump on, listen to the first part with all the politics thing, and then done that when music started to play. So all the like political bacchanal, you had to hold on, right, and listen to the lessons of the thing before we get into the couture, right? So this was one of the songs, I can't play all, right? This was one of the songs that he win in the first year with. And it's so related to what my boy going through this WASA Man. Sorry for me, no. I mean, I'm laughing and thinking, it's halfway funny, a little bit. It's funny when it's not happening to you. Let me put it like that, right? When it happened to you a long time ago, it's still a little bit funny. But this song so, because I don't have the patience or the belly or whatever you call it to sit down there and listen. Any one of them is in that situation, anyone out of the three of them, again, up and I'm walking off on that conversation. You can't have me there saying, no, debating this thing about, oh, you take off your watch and she gonna bathe because you know you're comforting. No, sir. We done. And I'll let your wife know before we leave that, listen, ma'am, we done. Because now I'm in my WASA uniform all over Facebook and Instagram and my WASA truck outside and I'll go in WASA yard. You could imagine what that man went through the next day when he went to work with the amount of old talk. I'm putting myself through that. But again, this song from Duke, it just reminds me of this kind of situation. And he was that kind of guy. Like, you had to narrow down which one of the Bacchanal songs I will play from Duke because he have a ton of them. So take this one in.
A big bacchanal just the other day with Enid and Shimakume. Big commerce the other day with Enid and Shimakume. I ain't want to hear, so I pass him straight. A fella pull me and tell me wait. Same time Enid husband get off the bus. Well, it's now the Makume start to cross. She say, look Enid, remember if you say how you have your husband so total babe. Your sweet man does come home in the house too. He could only watch and he can't say, yeah, in it. Woman, why you lying on me? Girl, I'm not in your category. And if even said what you said is true, you have a man with your husband too. It's me, but I felt so shame when I hear she called him my name. He's so shocked, he don't know what to do, so he stand up there listening to. A policeman was right on the beat, run to make an arrest, but he come as sweet. Enid is a big socialist in South. She want to cuss, but she hardly open she mouth. Girl, you should shame to curse me for true. It's me, Enid, who you talking to. When you were sick in the hospital, I let you dress me nighty and all. What you know about shame, me Maku may say. You didn't shame last week Saturday when your husband come home earlier. Instead, you had to hide the man under the bed. When the man hear that, he face come pale as mud. If you choke him, you can't get blood. Watching the wife and shaking the head, I say, Lord, well, tonight she dead. And next comments, woman listening shout, hey, hey, mouth open and Tory jump out. This time the man may put she hand on she waist, and if you see how she getting on in the place, she say, look, in it's better you leave and go. Don't let me talk everything I know, because you and Doris couldn't agree. You tie the chain in the girl belly. I don't care what you say to do. I am still mistress in it, they do. Bailey then take back my TV set, and I never see peas in the market yet. Now the husband shame, he couldn't take no more. He tell the wife, girl, come let we go. He hold she hand and he pulling she, but she tugging away from me. The Makume say, yes, you manly cool. You better take she away for true. She hires so dotish and borrow kid. What she give to rob, is that you take and eat? He say, listen, young woman, stop making strife. You want to put me against my wife. In front me face, you're lying on she. My wife ain't have nobody with me. I know that man you are speaking about. That is her cousin Rufus from South.
Yes.
When he come home with a sleeping tree, sometime I
just want to take he for me. One of the greatest of all time, Kelvin Pope, the mighty Duke boy. Easily one of the best of all time. Yeah, only had the resume there and the countdown. So we'll play a few more before the episode done, right? But let me get into some things for this week now. Plenty news to cover, and I feel like we done spend about a half hour on that, right? First and foremost, again, there's a whole mix-up episode, so I'm dealing with sports up front one time too. For all of you who like to lock off before sports come, I want it to be known that Angus, Mervyn Augustus, Eve is now the coach for Trinidad and Tobago's team, a 2-year contract. Not just the team, the under-20 team as well. So it's the senior team as well as the under-20 team. Angus Eve is the coach. So according to the Express, Ian Prescott, the man in focus, FIFA appointed Normalization Committee of Trinidad and Tobago Football Association has reappointed Angus Eve as the senior men's national team coach ahead of the CONCACAF Nations League in 2022. So this is what I was hoping for, right? I was hoping that we didn't go through this thing where we have somebody who gains some level of success and some level of motivation from the players, and seeing a big difference with the approach to the game and how we going about it. And because we didn't make it or we didn't do well, I mean, in the end, we lost. I think we draw one game and lost 2, if I remember right, from the Gold Cup. Not qualifying for the World Cup was not his. He wasn't in charge. It was Fenwick in charge. And that I'm sorry, to be honest. When I'm watching World Cup qualifiers going on this couple weeks here, during the international break from the Prem and my fantasy team, and you're not seeing Trinidad that real depressing and sour. But, I can't back none of these other side. But from the time Trinidad out the World Cup, I lost my interest in the World Cup as a whole. I don't know what went on in CONCACAF. I ain't watching none of them games. I think Jamaica I hope they did well. I was watching some of the European thing. I guess having to watch what happened with Cristiano Ronaldo for my fantasy team's sake. But I can't really watch the CONCACAF games that I'm a real sour. But I'm glad positive side of the outlook, I suppose, is that Eve is there. He had 2 years. He have good relationships with the younger players, good relationships with the local players as well. So he will be dependent on his local base for the most part, I'm assuming. And the CONCACAF Nations League, I want to say, is in March 2022. So at least we're hoping to have a team that could compete and make us proud. Kind of like the TKR, I could use them as an example to compete and make us proud. At least generally speaking, not this year necessarily, like in general. But it's nice to know that we have a local manager at the helm of the thing going into serious competition. We have a tendency to just fire whoever based on very little, nobody knows what's caused somebody to get fired from the national team or anything. So I'm just happy to have Angus Eve there, and I'm hoping for the best, right? I don't want to get too excited. Me and Soccer Warriors, I don't want to overexcite myself, but we're there. In other sports news, again by Ian Prescott, former Fatima College coach Wayne Sheppard has begun his stint in the Taiwan Football League with a big 7-1 victory for second division Inter Taoyuan. Let me just say Taoyuan, right? Having been recommended by Derek King, the former assistant coach to Trinidad and Tobago men's national team, Sheppard is determined to make full use of the opportunity. So call this nepotism, call it whatever you want. That's my cousin, that's my guy. I teach him to play football. I teach him everything he knows about his sport. As a matter of fact, his starting coaching really come from coaching me as a player, as a young striker, one of the most prolific in... none of that is true. But I'm just glad to see that he's doing well over there. We went over to Taiwan earlier this year, and because of COVID restrictions and stuff, really wasn't coaching any team. He's the only coach I ever see get hired and was doing absolutely no coaching whatsoever. But it's nice to see him well in control, and congrats to him on his first game, winning 7-1. That's a big deal no matter how you take it. So we have our local boys in charge of the national team, and we have local boys and my family in charge of teams in Taiwan, and we're doing good out there. So I look into this for the upsurge in local sports, and I hope that between Sheppy and Angus, they could reach Kyron Pollard in some type of way. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to get out of Kyron Pollard, because it rail up and down. We're not looking like the TKR that we usually are. Salute to St. Kitts, all the fellas are a big squad. All they make a bomb squad. It's clear that they try to do the home advantage thing, and it's working out for them greatly. So that's it for sports. We ain't going too long into sports. There's my two things. Angus is there and Sheppy is there. We could keep updated. We always follow their progress overall. And as much as we have people representing us well, I had to send a huge salute to Nikki Crosby. I didn't even know this was a thing. I just browsing through the papers and I see they're saying that Nikki Crosby is gone. Nikki Crosby bids farewell to radio and heading to the US on a little hiatus. Let me just get to what she said, right? Nikki Crosby, this is from Loop TT, written by Laura Dorich Phillip. Nikki Crosby is embarking on what she calls a little hiatus from Trinidad and Tobago. I don't like the word leaving. You remember this last week we was playing now leaving, but like she leaving. I don't know the correct word because I don't think I will ever leave Trinidad and Tobago. It's a little hiatus. I don't like the word migrate. I don't like leave because I'm not leaving Trinidad. Okay. It's almost like I have things to do and I will be back. The actress, comedian, and radio host shocked fans last Friday when she announced on 96.1 that she would be leaving the country. Her last day on air was Monday, during which she filmed herself, or she went live, and explained to social media followers that she was leaving for the United States with her husband, Jerry Clark. Now, I can't help but think, when I saw, I don't know if Ole was thinking this, right? But when I see Nikki say she's leaving, the first thing come to my mind is how much times Nikki Crosby get robbed in Trinidad and Tobago. You can remember them stories? Like she got robbed on the streets one time, like, just got accosted and robbed. I can't remember if it was robbed or somebody. I think the word she used was the person feel up, like try to feel up on the streets. And then she was also having lunch somewhere and they come and rob the place. And I remember her real shattered about it. Just because, it's just not the Trinidad she knew, and, the place changed and all that. So from the time I hear she says she's leaving, it felt to me, I just assume that it had something to do with the crime situation. But she said that the plan is to go for a year because Jerry wants to spend some time with his son. They are very family oriented and his oldest son is in Ohio. He is in the medical field and he runs a children's hospital there, and Jerry wants to go and give him some energy and keep him going. COVID really fine-tuned family and what it means to us. My sister is also in Florida, so we decided just to take some time off and spend it with family. But salute to Nikki, man. Nikki is somebody who do a lot for the country. Nikki has been a part of the radio scene for a little while. But even before that, Nikki Crosby was always a big part of the comedy scene. I want to say Yangatang, eh? If you remember the 10th days, when she was a part of Yangatang 10th with Earl Fabian and them, and coming up with the granny character that, I mean, was just really a skit that lasts so long. So when you look at what people like Rody do, if you follow Rody on Instagram, or Major Hype, use him as an example too, who come up with all these characters and do them things. I mean, Nikki started, I don't want to say she originated that, but she's one of the Caribbean people who would have almost perfected that, because Nikki in that granny character was able to do not just stand-up or that type of skit comedy, but she was able to do ads. She also said she had a contract with Granny now to do some kind of endorsement, so she'll be doing that from where she is, so you'll still see her in the ads. She come on radio as Granny. You remember she had started Nikki Land, who, if I'm not mistaken, the first major what's it called, that a children's show? After Spectacular and them tents closed down and they wasn't having children's show in the way they used to back in the day anymore. To me, Nikki Land is the first major children festival. I'm not sure what to call that, if it's a tent or whatever it was, where they combine performances and stuff with little giveaways, face painting, food and things for them children to eat, and games for them to play and just have a good time. And Nikki Land went on for some time. I am not sure what would have caused it to stop. Like almost 1 year, it just kind of fade to black. I can't remember the last time I see Nikki Land. It would have been a good while ago. Must be 10 years ago was the last Nikki Land, if I had to guess. And did Bungie and Fayan do something like that, where they had put on a show or something for the children? I can't remember what they called theirs, but I'm pretty sure I saw Bungie and Fayan do something like that. And maybe some other people who came after that, but Nikki Land was one of the origins of that. And if you know that Crosby name, it goes back to the Crosby family from St. James, of course. We had to take all the credits we could get. So I taken Nikki as a St. James girl, right? I think she is. With a grown up right on the main road there. I never see her wrong or anything. I only know her from her fame as a comedian and a radio presenter and a host in the tent and that kind of thing. But her family from Earl Crosby, who I believe is her father. I don't want to say that wrong. Either father or grandfather, right? And they used to do, well, of course, it's a record shop, right? From the days when you had to go and buy physical music all the way to when you had to buy CDs. Crosby's was still operational. And Crosby's was one of them places back in the day like Cachet. Like, you remember when we were fetting, a big part of like the ticket thing, you had to get by Cachet. Tickets for any event. And Crosby's was like that place a long time. When you hear events, you had to buy Crosby's and Reiner's and Cleves to be able to get tickets to go your little show and them kind of thing. And when records come out, physical records, that was the places you used to go. Like I remember going by Crosby's, and they used to have, in the old record shop days, you had to go and work your way through records to find what you're looking for and thing. And then they have a little record player in the store. You go and you put on that and you play. For the whole store to hear, you listening through to hear where you want to buy and where you don't need and that kind of thing. It was just a real different experience. When you look at now how easy it is, I mean, look at what we do with Duke. You could go and find so much of music, and he's one of the harder people to find music from online. But all this time was at your fingertips before. You had to make a special effort if you wanted to get music back in the day. And Crosby was one of them places we used to go, and deeply rooted in the culture overall, because Crosby's used to have a, What was the name of the thing? I remember it as a launch for Carnival every year. Somebody from St. James go correct me, right? My mother will probably tell me what was the right thing. But I remember it being a launch in the Carnival season or something like that. And right on the main road, that is between, oh God, street names on me. Dengue Street? Jesus Christ, I think I can remember the street name. I think it's between Vidal Street and then. So if you know where Smokey and Bunty was, I can use Smokey and Bunty as an example. If you know where Smokey and Bunty was, Crosby's is on the next side, almost in the middle of the block opposite Smokey and Bunty. That's the best way I could describe it. And they used to put up a stage right in front of the record shop. And they block off the main road. The whole main road was a a vibe. You used to go and stand up in front of Crosby's and taking the top performers at that time. I mean, I was small. And so the people I remember would be Iowa and Ronnie McIntosh and Super Blue and them. And I'm not sure how much years that used to go on before I would have known about it. Was it something that was going on where, let me say, Sparrow and them winning road match at the time, was it so old, like coming all through the years? Because Earl Crosby was a full old man, you know what I mean? And that was a spectacle every year in St. James. And that is long before St. James had amphitheater and thing. You're blocking the main road rider. And it's fat right in the road. I'm talking in the 80s here. And somewhere around the early 90s, maybe the thing just got too big and it moved over to King George. Or well, Nelson Mandela Park now. But it used to be in King George. So picture King George where Harvard is and the stage used to face Harvard. And it used to be Crosby's carnival launch in King George. And I remember the last year that they did it. If I'm not mistaken, it was Wayne Rodriguez that sang Footsteps. What year Footsteps would it be? But I want to say late 90s. You know, it's definitely late 90s because I was on the road when Footsteps was playing. What was that, 98? Footsteps. Did that win road match? Yeah, 98. So 98, Wayne Rodriguez was performing. And they had a fence. Them days was a real different time, you know, because it's a real makeshift fence. Something was so dangerous. It's a makeshift chain link fence the men put to separate the crowd from the stage. You know, there's need a little media area, right? Where people could go and take their photos. So it's usually have a barrier. No, all that made out of scaffold and proper fencing and them kind of thing. Back then it was something somebody knock up with chain link fence on some board and thing. And Wayne Rodriguez had tell people, pull down that fence, move that fence from there, a little too far. And people rip down the fence and, you know, rush the stage. And a bunch of people get damaged. And if I'm not mistaken, they never did the show again. It was too risky and thing. And who want that behind the name if you think, I talking about a free show, you know. That show, you ain't paying $1 to go to that show. When they block off the main road, they just blocking it off from traffic. Anybody could have walk up and come to that show. You're seeing the top artists perform for the carnival. I suppose as an artist at that point in time, you want to be in that Crosby show because if it's a launch for Carnival and you have a new song, you want to be on that bill. So all the biggest artists passing through. And you just getting to do that. You just getting to take that in for free. How likely you feel anything is like that to come back, boy? I mean, we can't manage that kind of crowd now. Imagine Marshall coming out and perform for free somewhere like on the main road. Which party from? Siparia? If he just come and block the road over there and do that, it would just be too much. And I guess that's what happened with Crosby's and them. It might have gotten to be too much eventually and they moved on from it. But anyway, just history about the Crosby family. So Nikki, as well as everybody in her family, is icons in the culture to me too. So I was glad when I read the article and they said that it wasn't due to crime that she left. And it's just a 1 year and it seemed to be a family thing. So Nikki, enjoy your 1 year, girl. Granny, everybody who embodied in you. And we hope you come back fresh, man. And bring back Nicky Land when you come in, man. Let him try and do something when COVID done, you know what I mean? He's trying to need something to do, you know. Because school reopened, by the time you're listening to the school, fully reopened. And so Zachary is no more Mr. Jarville. I used to come here and complain about Mr. Jarville trying to convert this man into Catholicism every week. But I said, Mr. Jarville, you do a good job, boy. You teach them children about calypso. You tell them about your thing with your cooking. You know, them children get to be well-rounded. So much is invested in primary school teachers, boys. So salute to all the teachers in the country who back out to work today. Most of it virtual. Well, all of it virtual still. I think the date for the restart in person for 3, 4, and 5 is on the 1st of October. So salute to all the teachers who making such an impression on all. They have a brand new class. And salute to people like my partner daughter who gone to secondary school, pass their common entrance. What do you call it again? Pass their SEA. And they never see the school that they're going to. They're going into Form 2 now and they never see the school. You can imagine that all their school life has been virtual. And we had a unique little experience here with Zachary's school because, you know, they say stick to the devil you know. I don't want to say devil you know, because Mr. Javel is a man of God. But you know what I'm saying? Stick to the God you know. Because all the bad talk are bad talk Javel. PTA meeting or teachers meeting or whatever it is, you know me going them thing, right? Stacey had to go that, right? Because I'm going to sit down in a teachers meeting. But when I walk in now, she in the teachers meeting, and she telling me, babe, the teachers' parents vex here because they're saying they're doing some kind of team teaching. Which, from my days in lecturing, right, once I did that team teaching thing. There was a school out of London that wanted us to do team teaching. So I had to do, like, two of us as lecturers in the class at the same time, and you do part, I do part. It was real awkward. I find it awkward. Maybe it's my own insecurities, because sometimes I know I supposed to be teaching this topic, and if you know me good enough, you know I off topic like hell. Now I had to stick to a script, and when come and think about it, the school never called me back to do it again, so I must get exposed. But it was an awkward thing trying to split up the work and who to teach what, and everybody had their own different style and that kind of thing. So I say, but these little children are going through so much already. So much has changed, so much uncertainty in the world and in their own lives now. Why make a change like that when they're going into standard 3 to do something like team teaching? And when I say team teaching, they merge the two classes. So primary school classes in this country is 20-something, 30 people in a class. And now they merge it. So the class he gone into now have 50-something people inside the class. This is 50-something people on a Zoom call. I want to let you picture the last Zoom call earlier on where everybody talking over one another. And people, for God's sake, please, asking everybody this to just do me a favor now. When you invite me to a Zoom call, like a Zoom birthday party and thing, please do not get everybody to sing happy birthday. Please don't get nobody to sing nothing on no Zoom when everybody think how lag and who off and everybody's a different age group and a different era. Happy birthday from the 70s is not exactly the same as happy birthday from these little... Don't do that thing where we had to sing happy birthday night. Not right? But imagine there are 50-something 9-year-old children in a class. But the teachers explain it to say, okay, when one of them teaching, the next one monitoring the Zoom and monitoring the chat. I know it's all your thoughts about, but I was real worried. But my guy went through the first day of school on Monday, and he said he had a great time. The teacher was very interactive. Apparently, one of them responding when they asked questions in the chat, one of them responding and coordinating who to talk and that kind of thing. It's be awkward with, I do in a class now, it must be 20 people, and I struggle to get everybody to contribute and things. So at 50-something people, apparently the teacher who not teaching, she moving and shaking. She working the crowd then. And then the guy taught on Monday, and he was very interactive with kind of like games for them to play and they can answer. So you had to click through your answer online. And so my guy had a good time. So I'm glad, and salute to all the children who gone out to the new standard or form or whatever. Always heroes, always giants. Anybody who and the parents too, the parents who have children. I see a little bit of the first day pictures from the children. Imagine a child going secondary school for the first time, and you can't do the normal drop them and cry and take the picture in the uniform and them kind of things. So people had to take the pictures in the uniform home. And I didn't even think about it. Like children who graduate, they're not getting to do the normal grad thing. And salute to my guy Clint. I have some neighbors, some neighbors who's heroes too, my guy Clint and Azola. The men set an example. I had to step up my parenting. I realized my parenting in a mess because normally on a Sunday, we and the fellas in the community is take a little sweat. When I walking up the road to sweat, I see men dress up like they're going to church. It's because they make a little graduation ceremony. Both of their daughters would have graduated secondary school and didn't have the experience of crossing a stage and a cap and a gown. And the little ceremony thing, the importance of rituals, sometimes we underestimate that. The process of graduating with your peers, and you go through that, and there's a change in your mentality when you graduate from one phase of life to the next. I was using that example when I was talking about Lyra Clark's daughter. Lyra Clark saying 24 years old, such an important age, and having the speeches and all that is an important thing that we hand over our children from childhood to adulthood. And I was hearing somebody was telling me about this the other day now, I can't remember who now, was saying that we don't really have a ritual to put children through when they move from adolescence to adulthood, or wherever he is moved to from adulthood, from young or teenage to adulthood. We don't really have a specific ceremony or things to tell them or ways that we help them transition as a community or as men. So I was glad to see my two brothers put on a little ceremony for their daughters. No, it's their wife, eh? By my two brothers, I mean their wife, because I saw two of them just show up when they had to show up and pay for what they had to pay for. That was them total contribution. But it was nice to see because those young ladies get a chance to go through an actual graduation or some semblance of it. And they went all out. They do decor. It was really, really nice to see. So if it was me, I wasn't going to do nothing. I would have said, my boy, you do real good in your school, you graduate good, you're a big man now, start to pay some bills. But it was nice to see that going overall. But again, salute to everybody who gone back out to school, parents and teachers and everything. And it seems as though we inching closer and closer to going out or going back to some semblance of community and commune and all that, because the boss came last week, Friday. And the boss said that in September, now vague like hell, right? You know that's my problem with this whole thing. The thing vague like hell. He said, September we could look at opening back up based on how much vaccinations we have and so on. So we're going to open back cinemas, casinos, movie tongue in cinemas, restaurants for dining, church and everything. I ain't saying about nothing about beach and river and them thing. But only for the vaccinated people. So you know the unvaccinated people, not the unvaccinated, but the hate vaccinated people who hate vaccine, they must real upset. And the rhetoric online gets to be I don't need nothing, I don't want no restaurant food anyhow, the restaurant food killing me, I don't get accustomed to cooking home, I don't want to watch no movie, I just stream my movies and things. And my response to that is great, that's super. It work out good for everybody then. If the place going to get reopened and there's some places that people can't go because they're not vaccinated, it don't make us any different from anywhere in the world. New York doing the exact same thing, and you had to show your vaccine card. I saw somebody posted online that they have a picture of the vaccine card on their phone because everywhere they go in New York, they're asking them for it. And if you can't produce it, the international vaccine card that is, you're not going to get let into service centers or restaurants and that type of thing. So I guess we're going in the direction where everybody else going as a country. And gratefully, it seems as though with the vaccine hesitation and all that, the brand name vaccine doing the trick. So Pfizer was here for the school children and for pregnant women. Or I should say pregnant people with Lil Nas X something. Maybe I shouldn't say pregnant women. For pregnant people like Lil Nas X, you could have get the Pfizer vaccine, or if you were a child between 12 and 18, I believe was the age that they said, you could have get Pfizer. But people didn't rush to vaccinate the children as I first thought. So plenty Pfizer like it remained. Plenty Pfizer remain back, as we say. And they opened it up late last week and they said, anybody who wants a Pfizer, come in. I don't think they learn from the everybody come in at the same time. It's quite odd that we'll be back to the same thing that we make mistakes with before, right? Because if you all remember, the first time the appointment system went up and they find not enough people was taking the appointment and not enough people was coming and get vaccinated, they just say, anybody come, no wait and no appointment. And mayhem ensue outside Diego Martin Health Center, I remember in particular. And of course, they do the same thing again last week. They say, listen, all the Pfizer going to expire, all you come through and get Pfizer. And a big crowd gathered. I think there are 23 centers overall. I saw crowds in Gulf City and a few other locations they were showing you. It was ridiculous how much people crowd there. And then you create a burden and a risk for the volunteers and the healthcare workers and everybody who came out to see that people get vaccinated. Because people come in crowds and it's still rainy season. So of course, rainfall, the same exact thing we see last time is what happened again. I'm not sure how come I don't want to say we don't learn from our mistakes. Like we run ahead first into making the same mistakes over and over again. But the good news is that Pfizer became the first WHO approved vaccine, fully approved. And that seemed to be one of the reasons that people was hesitant to take the other vaccine. So now that we have a fully approved vaccine, I'm glad to see so many people rushing to get vaccinated. It's a good sign. The brand name thing and the efficacy thing and the approval thing is out of the way now, and many more people vaccinated. We still at, if I remember what I saw, it was like 27 or 28% fully vaccinated and 37% getting at least one dose. Based on what happened now over the past late last week and early this week, it looked like we will be starting to head towards 40, 45%. So it's a good sign overall that people taking the opportunity to get the vaccine, now that they're getting a brand name or a better vaccine, that is a great sign. And something strange happened in the UNC, you know. As we talk about this vaccine thing, the viewpoints of the UNC and people around the UNC seems to have taken a subtle change. I can't tell you that I understand, right? I could just tell you why it is happening. And where to start? Start with CAMS. I see an article this week from Kamla on CNC3, the Honorable Right Kamla Prasad Bissessa, right? I had to stop saying CAMS and rollers and these things, right? CNC3, who write this? The editor. It says opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bissessa is calling for Health Minister Terence Dialsingh, CMO Dr. Roshan Parasram, and the health team handling COVID-19 to be replaced. She made the call in a news release on Saturday. The Minister of Health, the CMO, and his failed team must be replaced now for the irreparable destruction to citizens' lives and livelihoods. Wow. August has been one of the deadliest months in our national battle with COVID-19 pandemic. A total of 214 persons sadly lost their lives in the past month. In the past 4 months alone, over 1,000 people have now lost their lives to the virus, bringing the total to over 1,300 since the pandemic began. Now, just take this into consideration, right? I see a stat recently that showed the total number of deaths in China for COVID from the beginning is 1,400. We at 1,300, right? Now, apart from it, don't want to trust China numbers because China might not be the most transparent place when it comes to reporting numbers of anything, much less COVID-19. And I find it hard to believe and very strange that a country of a couple billion people only had 1,400 deaths. And we here who doing a lot of lockdowns and whatever we need to do to survive this thing, up to 1,300. But anyway, it's abundantly clear that the team of Minister Terence Dialsingh, CMO Parasram, Dr. Avery Hines, and Dr. Miriam Abdul Richards are out of their depth and inspire no confidence to continue to manage the crisis. Instead of fighting COVID-19 diligently as health professionals, they have been performing as a propaganda team for an inept dictator. These very strong words. But the reason I say something strange happening in UNC, right? Because on Saturday, she come out and make what is a scathing attack on people to say all they need to go, the Prime Minister need to resign and the health team need to go and they're doing terrible and everybody dying and it's horrible. And if, of course, subtly saying that if she was there, she would have done so much better. And I want you to remember her initial statements about hydrochloroquine, bleach, sunlight, punching. You remember a lot of that was coming out of the UNC camp at that point in time, right? And even the vaccines, about we not getting enough vaccines and we the vaccines that we getting suspect and all that. All those things were coming out of the UNC camp. But out of the blue, I just see Ian Allen. And I don't want to just say Ian Allen is out of the UNC camp. No, Ian Allen had run as a UNC candidate for St. Joseph at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken. And does he openly come out and say he's UNC? When he on his show, he always say that he not for no party, he's a man independent. But his attacks on the Rowley government and his support for the UNC party seems to suggest that he more on the yellow side and he have a little more mustard than ketchup in his blood, if you understand where I'm coming from, right? And all of a sudden, I saw him, who's had the all kind of thing to say about Parasram, questioning Parasram religion and what he do as a Hindu and all them different things. Talking about vaccine, basically stopping just short of telling people, don't trust them vaccine and this and that and the other. All of a sudden, I see him come up on Facebook saying, I just took my Johnson & Johnson vaccine a few minutes ago with my entire staff. I've lost too many friends and loved ones who were indecisive about taking the vaccine. And of course, in true Ian Allen style, he went live at the place where he was going to get his vaccine. I mean, he was a little frightened of the vaccine. Like, yeah, you know, if he have a little needle phobia or whatever you might want to call it. But he went and get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and went as far as to thank and big up all the staff who was there live on the thing and interview some people who came to get a vaccine. And when he interviewed the people who came, you know what some of them say? Like, he asked the lady it seemed impromptu, It didn't seem planned or set up at all. He asked her, well, why you came to get the vaccine? She said, Mr. Allen, to tell you the truth, is you is the reason why. When I hear you say you're going to take it, I say, well, all right, we can take it. Just think how more powerful that is, right? And it's understandable. I can't get the woman wrong. And this is why I be so worried about the messages that people sending out. Like I see in very popular people with big following on Instagram, basically going on this vaccine nothing, and they want to poison my children. And I see a next post, why vaccinated people don't just leave we alone. If all they take all their poison and all their sheep, all they just go ahead with that, while they have to try to tell we how to work and where we could go and where we can't go. The voices of people extremely powerful, because on one hand you have somebody who basically wasting, rubbishing the voice of people who I would call experts like Dr. Hines, Dr. Parasram, Dr. Abdul Richards. I would say that those are people who I would want to hear from. When them say, go ahead, run in, I run in. But people rather listen to Ian Allen. So it's something that we have to be so mindful of when you think of the power that, I don't just want to say non-experts, but media personalities, artists, everybody. There's the people we should have been approaching initially to make the call. It might sound frivolous, right? But if doctors making the call and the doctors next to politicians, every time you see them making the call, you could see why people will be more and more skeptical, especially when you have a prime minister who's getting mad and say, honey goat weed and all these kind of things when he getting vexed. And I could understand why he fed up, but that doesn't even make it sound more like if it's propaganda and thing people pushing. And then beyond Ian Allen getting the vaccine, the Newsday reports, this is by Sean Douglas, this is over the weekend as well. Human rights attorney Ramesh Maraj and Israel Khan on Friday both supported the Prime Minister's suggestion of access to recreational sports for vaccinated individuals as the country continues to grapple with the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Rowley had earlier told a briefing in Tobago that restaurants, in-house dining, casinos, cinemas, and hopefully bars could reopen at month end for vaccinated individuals. Newsday asked the two senior counsel if any vaccinated-only access was akin to rightly debarring entry to a filthy person, or was it discrimination? Hold on, I don't understand what I mean. Newsday asked the two senior counsels if vaccinated-only access was akin to rightly debarring entry to a filthy... Well, I mean, I guess like a bar could say no sleeveless. I think that's what they're trying to say. So is it like no sleeveless people? Or is it discrimination? Because a lot of people online pushing the idea that this is like when it used to have whites only restaurant and blacks only washrooms and things. They say we vaccinated and we're going 100 years back where we saying is whites only and blacks only. Marad said Rowley was right. Under the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, there's a guarantee to the right to life, and the government has a responsibility and duty under the Constitution to protect and take proactive measures to protect the lives of individuals. I think our government is entitled to mandate vaccines, where if you do not mandate it, individuals can go and communicate a disease, an infectious disease, to others and affect their lives. I don't see the difficulty in people understanding that this is a pandemic. It is a dangerous virus. It can kill. It has killed and it is killing more. A government has a duty to take proactive steps to prevent people from dying and so on and so on. So I just found that is an interesting little twist of events here, where like you're hearing rumors bubbling about infighting in the UNC, right? And acts like these or things like these seem to support that, where your opposition leader, the person who is in charge of the party, in attack mode, while other people seem to be coming out in I don't want to go as far as to say in defense of the government, but I want to say supporting some of the government policies, which sometimes you don't see at all from an opposition party. The general idea behind the opposition and all the cohorts and all the supporters is to oppose everything the government do. It's been the same for Pandey when he was in opposition, Manning and them when he was in opposition, Rowley in opposition. The idea seems to be to oppose regardless of how good a move might be or not. But I don't know what people's thoughts are on this vaccinated thing. Of course, I already fully vaccinated, so it doesn't affect me. I need to try and find my vaccine card, if you're being honest, because you know where I put that. But I'm sure I could get one to buy, like everybody else. But if there's one need to go restaurants and to go in the bar and them kind of thing, I just walk with my vaccine card and I go in them places. It wouldn't bother me. I was going to restaurants and stuff before I got vaccinated when restaurants was open and taking as much precaution as I could take. Even though I'm fully vaccinated, I really don't want to get COVID. I'm hoping I could stay away from it and stay clear. I suppose everybody will get it at some point, but if I could stay clear, it would be good. I don't want to test out this efficacy thing, no? So even if we start back going to Lime, and I didn't hear him say anything about beaches. And I didn't hear him say anything about organized sports. I don't play in sports already. So I'll still try to take as much precaution as I could take to avoid getting this dreaded virus, regardless of vaccinated versus unvaccinated. But I wonder what people's thoughts are. Will it push more people to go and get a vaccine now that you can't access certain amenities or services? Or will people double down and strengthen up and come out in numbers? Like I saw large protests in Jamaica. Just last week we were talking about that hospital in Jamaica being overwhelmed. They still had 4% vaccination, while we had 20-something, 30-something. And I saw people coming out on the streets and protest. And big artists like I-Octane and them, Spragga Benz coming out and say, yeah, it's full time, we stand up for ourselves and them kind of things. So you could see how important the voices of people, use Jamaica as the example, people like Buju and I-Octane and Spragga Benz, and the voices of those people might be more powerful than the medical professionals. And when in our local context, when you have somebody like Ian Allen having that kind of influence over people, it's a good sign when you see them going and get vaccinated, and they could at least convince more people to come out. And again, Israel Khan and Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, both Ramesh Lawrence Maraj was under UNC for sure, right? I don't know what's his position now. Israel Khan was always akin, you know what I mean, a kind of parallel, always lined up with UNC more or less. If he was not, was he a senator under the UNC? I can't remember. But to see them coming out and say this, I think we will see a little turning of the tide, small, by people who were listening to them and being influenced by them and staying away from the vaccine. We should see a faster uptake. Unfortunately, I mean faster to 40-45% rather than to 70% where we say herd immunity was needed. But at least it's a step in the right direction. And the good news is that finally something's opening back up and we're looking like we're headed somewhere. Peter George, some different reactions from the business community. This is from Liz Williams, right? This is the news there as well. Adjust the curfew hours, says owner of Movietown, Chin. Chin is already thinking of ideas like offering free movie tickets to children 12 to 18 who get vaccinated via the Newsday newspaper. Movietown owner Derek Chin welcomed the potential reopening and supported the PM stance on having customers vaccinated, but he's calling on Rowley to reconsider some public health regulations to ensure the profitability of these businesses when they reopen. Chin wants the current curfew hours to be adjusted and thinks most of these businesses will not be profitable under the current hours. Now, you can understand that to an extent, right? Because when you're operating a cinema, and I was saying that for street side vendors as well, when the curfew is 9, like think about yourself, right? Look at how much our lives change. This is why they say they're controlling me, you know. But now, I playing card with my father and then all of a sudden by 7 o'clock, everybody antsy me and want to head out because I don't like to be on the road between the hours of 8 and 9. I don't know about you. I find people is drive a little while. Like people at 8, 8:15, like them trying to drive to Tobago to be the curfew at 9. So you see that while driving, I try to be off the road by 8 every night. Which means if I had to buy something to eat or let me say go cinema, which not happening, right? I ain't going no cinema, vaccinated or not. But if you're going there, you want to wrap up whatever it is you're doing by 6:30, 7 o'clock for the latest to get out of there to get back home. And a lot of us operate that way. So when you're running a business like a cinema, you have to be real mindful of that because they can have no late show and them kind of thing again. That is it. It's a wrap. So it stops or it cuts short a lot of their opportunity to make profit. And I saw a few street vendors who they interview saying the same thing basically, that it limits the amount of money they could make because of the early hour people heading in. Nobody out in the late hours where they really used to make their money. And, well, you know your boy Peter George, right? Peter George basically come out and say that this thing ain't looking like it helping nothing. He says, so the headline in the Guardian from Renuka Singh is that George doubtful about reopening of in-house dining. He says, it says restaurateur Peter George is not buoyed by the prospect of reopening in-house dining, especially as it is dependent on increased vaccination figures. George is currently out of the country and yesterday told Guardian Media that he's not sure when or whether he will return to the country. Okay, well, he doing a little better than Nikki. He gone. There are a lot of variables that go into this. One is, of course, whether or not we achieve the number that the Prime Minister is satisfied that we can do things he said we can do. George said in a telephone interview. The reality is that we sit now with 29.6% fully vaccinated, and if the data is correct, 37% has taken one shot. Wait, now, they know that. Ask my next question. Is it vaccinated or fully vaccinated? If I only have one shot, can I go in a restaurant and sit down and eat, or go and watch a movie in cinema? I'm not sure. He says the reality. Where was I? Assume that by the end of September, for argument's sake, we go up to 37%. We know that the vaccine uptake has slowed dramatically. Let's be generous and say that we get to 45%. Hey, my 45% ain't far. Is that sufficient enough? Is that a sufficient enough number for the Prime Minister to grant us freedom of going to restaurants and cinemas? That is the first question. I would have put money. When it comes to reopening, he said, I would have put money in, pull staff out, and all that kind of stuff for a market that's going to be atrophied by 50 to 60% because only vaccinated persons are allowed to come. In terms of the curfew, he said, I'm assuming if this is to happen, then the SOE would be lifted. I suppose he mean the curfew. If you are going to do this with a 9 p.m. curfew, well, it's really a zero-sum game. Again, I understand where he's coming from too, because especially the types of restaurants that he running. Look at Trotters or Blue Star and those types of places. If you're going there, go in the evening time, you know what I mean? Go there and relax. All 7 o'clock I now reaching, where you can't do that anymore. So it means that if I had to go, let's say I go Trotters after work line, you had to be, you want to be heading out of there by after 6, 7 o'clock for the latest. So I understand where he's coming from. And there was a statement here that he made as well that was important. He said, we lose significantly less money being closed. And it was a very difficult decision because the money that we saved was in salary. People are still waiting 4.5 months later for the grants promised by the government. It's such a tenuous environment. Can I sustain it? No. So you see, as a business owner, the man basically saying, listen, it's cheaper for me to remain closed. I'm losing money either way, but I'm losing a lot less when I remain closed than when I open. And that's a question I kept asking, because when you get a chance to open and you could only do curbside and delivery, or now you could do curbside, you could do delivery, and you could do walk-in restaurants but not dine. It really disadvantages to certain types of restaurants. They have some places where, use doubles as an example, right? They have some places where we naturally buy and leave, like fast food outlets, doubles, street side vending, and so on. They have a certain amount of eating on the premises, but most of their meals are sold packaged to go. So we already do the drive-through, we do the drive-through called drive-through curbside, right? We do delivery and stuff for those types of products. So they could do decent. And I would be surprised if you look at a month, if you isolate Prestige Holdings earnings within a month where restaurants open back, they might be slower than they used to before in some of the places like Starbucks maybe. But you might find that KFC and them have some of the same levels of sales because people go and buy that and take it away anyhow. When you have a restaurant like Trotters or Blue Star or Tommy's or the restaurants that you have, a big part of what they're selling is the experience. A big part of their margin is based on experience. If you look at the way restaurants make money as well, the margin that they make on the meal will be markedly smaller than the margin they make on alcoholic beverages in a bar or drinks on a whole and on desserts. So how much when you go buy Trotters to buy something, to pick up to carry home, how much dessert you really buying? That will be down significantly. Very close to zero being sold. And Well, alcoholic drinks, you're going down to zero there again. You ain't making no money on that because it's not like a man coming to buy a little Mexican tortilla wrap or whatever it is. And he say, well, give me a rum and coke with that. You can't even sell, I don't know if you could sell the alcohol. So it put him in a position where your revenue significantly curtailed and you have to have a certain amount of staff to run at anything decent that's not going to destroy your brand name or your reputation as a company. And so he in a position where he's saying, it's not about making more, it's about losing less. And again, it's one of the more difficult things in this pandemic, in the environment in this pandemic from an economic standpoint, right? Health and everything first, which we always say. But what is going to happen as more and more businesses close? I saw Joseph's this week, them bite the dust, them say them out of it. Think about Joseph's restaurant. What is called a Rookery Nook, wrong that side. Joseph's is high-end, not really formal, but expensive dining. You know what I mean? And how much people gonna go for that for takeout? I know. It's just not that. Why paying that sort of money for takeout for when I could go right up by Shops of Maraval and get Lawrence of Arabia and get the same sort of Arabian food for a quarter of the price and get takeaway to carry home? It's not the same experience. So I'm not surprised that they closed down and more of that to come. And I don't see them opening back unless everything go back to fully open where you could serve whatever you want for as late as you want and have how much ever people you want on the compound, whether they're vaccinated or not. Those places are not going to come back. They can't play for a percentage of the market. You can imagine you done as a niche player already. Your goal is to sell to 5% of the market, 10% of the market. And now you're telling me of that 5-10%, it's only have 40% who vaccinated. So my number that I could attract getting smaller and smaller. So you could see where it puts them in a real rough position. But I mean, at least we have some kind of reopening and there's a positive sign. More people getting vaccinated. There's a positive sign. And it seems as though we slowly but surely, like we limping our way to some kind of recovery. All right, more surprises, right? Out of the blue. I just see this come up on Instagram this week, right? And somehow this story is the one that never gonna go away because almost a year ago that we talk about this here, right? And you all hear us talk about DSS many, many times. On News Before News, it says, congratulations. So you have a picture of David Mohammed and Karen Preeze Clark, right? In front of a sign that says A to Z Pawn Shop. Both in the little African that shaky garb, looking sharp, you know what I mean? Fellas looking sharp, you know what I mean? In the streets, looking good. It says, congratulations to my friend and brother, Karen Preeze Clark, founder of the DSS, on the launch of his new business yesterday, the A&Z Pawn Shop, number 1 Omera Road, Arima. Blessings and best wishes. So I guess this is David Mohammed sending his best wishes to his brethren, Preeze, on opening a pawn shop. No, hey, things sweet enough because, you know, people get warm on social media one time. Just keep in mind that DSS had a very timely seizure of a large amount of funds. Very soon after those funds were seized, about 20 million of those funds mysteriously walked back into the hands of DSS, unbeknown to Captain Gary Griffith at the time. And Gary Griffith was upset that it was returned to him by I think it was the financial part of the police or whatsoever it is. Subsequent to that, they went and make other raids, right? I don't think that the raids that they made after that, so I could be wrong about this, right? But when they made that raid for 20, when they returned the 20, the raids they made after that, I don't think it add back up to 20. But these are large sums of cash, so it's hard to keep track of, right? I don't know how you know anything add up overall. But somehow this not surprising. Number one, it's not surprising that he opened new ventures because he's been doing this. He's been traveling a lot. And every time he posts pictures of himself in Miami, in Cancun, or with superstar Riri or the little scandal that went on with them the other day, people under their comments talking about line 13 and get paid yet, right? You're living up with my money and you're owing me money. Let me just clear something up one time, right? All these people in these comments saying, Preeze owing you money. Preeze don't owe you nothing. Nothing. I don't know, boy. People was hell-bent on putting, let me say 10,000 into this thing and getting back 80,000 without any work or anything being done or any explanation of how a man turned 10 into 80. But you're putting it in with the hope that you get paid. you fully well know that when you put in that, some people going to lose for some people to win. But you really just upset that you are the one of the people who lose, or everybody end up losing, which was always going to be the case. It was always going to go to the point where it could no longer pay. And like every pyramid scheme that have no backing, or Ponzi scheme in particular, it go and bust like everything else. So some people get paid and they was happy. And you know, the funny thing about DSS in particular is that a lot of the people who saying that they owing them money, them get paid a couple times before with the smaller hand on them. And they take the money from that and they put it back now. So they take the 3,000 and they make 9. And with the 9 that they collect, they put the 9 and I add a 1 and put going in 10 now. So a bunch of people under there saying, you're owing me, at least give me back with 10,000. A man say, can I use my DSS receipt as a pawn ticket? He looking for 100,000. A man say, man take people money to open business for them to come and pawn their valuables by him and try to get some money. King of con men. All of a sudden, all he Preeze as a con man. You know, he was no con man when all he was getting all the money at other people's expense before. And other people balling for all to go through. All when all the gangster and admin from other groups because all they get all the money yet, all they just want to make sure you collect. Everybody know fully well what the thing was. But so I'm not surprised there's a punch. And also not surprised at the type of business that he going into. Remember his business was money lending. Then he going into susu operation. Give regular old susu a bad name. And now his pawn shop. Plenty cash heavy businesses. Keep in mind what a pawn shop is. You bring your gold and a man give you cash loans. And then you come every month and pay cash. If you ever pawn anything, you have to go back in the thing and pay cash to take out your pawn ticket or whatsoever the thing is, or make your payments like a loan payment basically every month. So no surprise there that it's cash business. They're going to come back, I guarantee you. I guarantee, especially seeing the optics behind this photo here and who is standing up with David Mohammed. This going to come down to African empowerment thing, because I already see where they say the first African to own a pawn shop, the pawn shop owned by all the other races and so on. The first African that done being bandied about between he and David Mohammed already. Watson Duke coming sooner. The picture of David Mohammed about Watson Duke going pass through eventually to say he pawned something or he going to take out something or he had an auction. I guarantee you that photo is coming. But you're going into a cash-rich business. To all in that shikis, I don't understand what I mean already, because heavy African support African, and instead of carrying your jewelry by Mirage to pawn, all that coming. Because the men, I assume that if you're not talking about them now, right? Or Preeze, if you run a Ponzi scheme, you have to continue to bring in cash. It was why Madoff collapsed. It was why, what was my next man named? Stanford collapsed. Because once you lose the ability to bring in more and more cash, your business is done. Even if whether you make jail for it or not, you will crash. And at that point, you had to run, you had to migrate. Go on watch your show on Netflix. I was talking about with the Indian fellow who was making billions of dollars off of people's small money they're putting together and losing. But people can't afford to lose $100 and you making billions off of them. You know what I mean? So I see the African thing coming. That A to Z mean Africa to Zimbabwe or something like that. Something like that going to come out eventually. But I'm also not surprised that David Mohammed next time in this picture, because David Mohammed is somebody who I follow for a long time. I used to be a part of when they had Black Caucus. I used to go to the meeting. They had a huge meeting at time in City Hall talking about empowerment for black people, you know what I mean, helping black youths. I went and signed up to volunteer to teach youths or wherever the course was or the subject. I can't remember what the age group would have been at that time, but I say, you know what, put me down, sign me up, wherever they're teaching. I come in and teach voluntarily. I happy to be a part of it. So I always felt like I had a little bit of a gift to show people what might be complicated concepts. So I remember being in school and feeling like I can't learn, like everything was going over my head. And I remember some teachers like stood out to me because they talk a little more like me and there was a little more down. It was not that aloof, especially in places like Fatima. You find that, no knock on them at all, but you had teachers like Maurice Brash, who was the back straight and they speak very, very proper. I couldn't relate to them very well. It was real hard. But when other econ teacher named Mr. Ramsing used to talk like he home, like just regular people on the block talking, and I get to love economics as a subject because of people like Mr. Ramsing. And all of us have teachers like that, but they could relate to me a little better. So one of the things I always wanted to do was to help people see that those concepts that people might feel are complicated, you could break it down. Like I always tell classes, you know economics already, you deal that every day. Everybody don't know econ already. So whether you could break down the definitions and things, that's secondary to the fact that you know econ, you know marketing, you know mathematics. Them things, a lot of it, we get scared by the way the teachers approach it or by the way the syllabus look or some of the terms that we never hear before. I like to start with the fact that, listen, you don't know maths and them things already. And I kind of volunteer my services for the Black Caucus at that time, and I was following him and his wife, and I like the movement they make. And I used to listen, he had a program on the radio, I used to listen to that every night. Just talking about black history and black empowerment. I remember him doing a show I found was so powerful about the revolutionary history of Trinidad and Tobago, which he had headline. The headline or the catchphrase at that time was Trinidad had more revolutions than any country in the Caribbean. And when we telling ourselves we docile and stuff, it's not true. We stand up for ourselves. And I listen to them programs for hours. I like him. He well-read, well-researched, plenty more than me. I always come in here and arming and effing and trying to remember things. He's well-researched, way, way better than me. But I did find it very, very strange because I listened to him when this DSS thing, not just DSS, all these susus was a big popular thing at the time. And I was listening to him and I almost wanted to hear him come out and say, listen, this thing can't work. Black people, stop going and put all your money in that. Make sure you save all your money and invest all your money properly. And then I thought that is what he was coming out to say. And I'll play a clip of what he said eventually, right? But the week before this, he came out and gave a very vague answer that seemed to suggest that susus, what we know as a susu. So if you have a susu and you have 5 people and only pay $100 each, for 5 months, everybody could get $500. You know how susu is run, right? I thought he was saying, African susu getting a bad name because of what these things doing, calling themselves susu. I thought that would be the angle he take. And I would understand that fully because the susu is such an important thing for us. People abroad, I remember going to New York and Boston and thinking my aunts and them running susu. It was an important part of how we settle, how we... like when we migrate and we live in abroad, it's our own little loan system and helping one another. And you know what I mean? For this to be called susu, where it's basically a Ponzi scheme and everybody going to lose their money eventually, everybody going to lose for a few people to benefit. I find it bad that they take the name susu and make that into something that negative. So I expected him to come and say that. And he gave me a kind of vague something, man. But it was sounding like if that's what you were saying. But then he came and he said this. I want you taking this clip, right?
Many people are asking, how is it possible for these susus to accept a certain amount of money from one person and then give them back 5 times more or 7 times more or 8 times more?
Right.
And many people are confused over that. So
yes.
Let me explain it.
Tell me.
This is African arithmetic.
Hold on. The man says African arithmetic. I need somebody to help me understand that. As far as I can tell, all arithmetic, all maths is African. So this idea that you have African arithmetic separate from anybody else's arithmetic is very, very confusing to me. But let me hear what you went on to say.
You send out an invitation to 100 people to bring in $100.
That's 10,000, right? Me and the best at maths, but let me go along with the figures here. 100 people bring $100, you have 10,000.
Within 5 weeks, you give them back $500 each.
Right.
All 100 of them.
So 10,000, you invite 100 people to bring $100. And then you tell them in 5 weeks, they're going to get $500. Now you need 50,000 to pay back them people, right? But right now you only at 10. So here you African arithmetic.
It is impossible to accept $100 from 100 people, and give everyone $500 because they'll only be bringing in 10,000.
Right.
And you need somehow to get 50,000 to give back to them.
Right.
But what you do is in the second week, You put out another invitation to 100 people to bring in $100 and they'll get back $500 each within 5
Right.
weeks.
So that's 20,000.
In the third week, you put out a similar invitation, 100 people to bring in $100 each and they will get back $500.
Nice. 30,000.
Fourth week, you do the same thing.
Good.
Fifth week, you do the same thing.
50,
Now,
right.
when the fifth week comes, you now have $50,000.
Right.
And 5 weeks have passed. The promised due date of payment is ready. And the first cycle of 100 people, you can now give $500 each to.
Beautiful. The math's working out. God bless African arithmetic. God bless African arithmetic, because you collect 10,000 a week for 5 weeks. Now you have $50,000 to give the people from the first week. Look at African arithmetic now, man. The thing working. But I just wanted to appreciate that at this point you have $0. You don't have any money. All the money you have collected, you couldn't spend none of it on Miami trips, or none of it on Cancun trips, or none of it on Superstar Riri, none of it. Or none of it on nice dashikis or pawn shops or any of those things, or Chelsea jerseys. You couldn't spend any of it. You had to take that whole 50 and give to the people from week 1, right? But guess what? In a week time, the people from week 2, you have $50,000 for them. And you have $50,000 for the people in week 2. And as of this day today, you have 0. And if you invite 100 people to bring $100 in, to say it like David Mohammed, you bring 100 people and you bring $100. You only have 10,000 to give them people 500. So what's the solution to that, Dave?
The second set of 100 persons who bought in $100
Right.
each, they have another $500 each to get, because the cycle of invitations of 100 people every
Right,
week bringing in $100 has been consistent, because a promise like that is difficult to beat. You put $100 in the bank,
Right.
you'll get back like $98.50.
Got you.
So once you keep having a consistent cycle of persons bringing in $100, waiting the incubation period of 5 weeks, then during that 5 week period, $50,000 comes in,
Right.
and then everyone constantly gets their money multiplied.
Apps. No, Dave. Maybe I should also stick with that little course if you was going to volunteer to lecture, because my brother, after you pay out that first 50,000, if you only have 100 people bringing in $100, all you will have is 10,000 to pay the people 50,000 at the end of that week. How are you paying them that $500 per person for that 100 people who bring it in week 2? You can't. So what you need now is 500 people in week 2. 500 people during that week after you give out the 50,000 to bring. So you have to constantly get higher and higher numbers. Or the genius behind DSS was that because Trinidad is a limited place, it only have a little bit of 1 million people here. The genius behind DSS is that they realized getting more and more people. It's not like the guy in India. It wouldn't last very long. And that's why so much of Susu was busting all the thing. What you had to do is open another line. Because what David Mohammed absolutely right about is everybody know when you put money in the bank, you're not going to get no sort of money, right? Or you're not going to make no big return on that. Anytime people start to see, I put in 100 and I get 5, that's an investment people want to run down, which clearly they did. So what they realize is when they reach the first cycle and they pay it out, that's the evidence. Now you have a concept and it's proven, and people who you know now could tell you, listen, I put in this and this is what I collect. What you do now is you run a next thing, what DSS was calling a line, and I say, well, listen, I'm closing off my $100 investment now. Now anybody who coming in, you have to buy at 500. So he solved his problem by increasing the quantity that being invested and not depending on the quantity of people that coming in. Make sense? So he increased the amount to $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 to 10, and I believe the last one was 15, and the police come and raid. You would have had to continuously increase the amount because Trinidad population don't have enough. It's coming like the same vaccine thing we was now talking about with Peter George and them. You're playing with a certain percentage. You have a certain percentage of people like me. It don't care how big it get. I'm not paying $1 in that. So your total population of people who are willing to join a Susu or a Ponzi scheme, small. So if you continue to increase the amount, you're good to go. at 10 and 15,000, there was already at the point where people joining together to put together a hand. Which makes sense. Left 4 weeks and we put 2,500 each. When we get 100,000, everybody get 25,000 and we go home, everybody happy still. When you had to increase now to $150,000 to put in, how that working? The thing with a bus anyway. That's why I always say the police raid. I find that, me no conspiracy man, you know. But I find it passing strange that the police come and seize all that money in cash. He demands smarter than Stanford and what the next man name? Madoff and all of them. The best thing you could possibly do is get your money seized. You're not arrested because you wasn't doing anything illegal. Thus far, at this point, you have paid out everybody who you promised to pay out up to that point in time. So nobody can come and say you was doing a scheme and you're saying and you don't have the money to pay back the people. But it get raid and it get whole. And you doing well, you traveling and living a good life and launching new businesses and everything and it's African empowerment. But salute to you. All power to them. I hope they get through. Because people going to run to pawn jewelry by this place. And people are, like I say, people on the comments asking if they could come with a ticket because people like this still have the ticket from their investment that they're waiting to find out something about pay. Don't wait too long. Don't hot up your head. I don't know if you're getting back nothing on that. But at least you have a place now where if you spend your money on DSS and you're not getting it back and you need money to pay your bills and so on, head right over to A to Z Pawn Shop, African to Zimbabwe Pawn Shop. No, Angola to Zimbabwe Pawn Shop, and get your stuff pawned by Preeze. Now we're gonna stray a little bit from Duke, right? There's a Duke episode, right? But when men so shrewd in business, you had to salute them, you know. You had to salute them, and I want to listen to this song from by Lord Melody.
Beware the peddlers in town, a police nearly carry me down. Beware the peddlers in town, a police nearly carry me down. At the corner George and Marine Square, a young man approached me there when I think he was begging for charity. This is what the young man exposed to me. He exposed old boots, old shoes, old petroleum lamps, a suit from an old concentration camp, needles, thimbles, scissors and thread, a photograph of Sir head, ashtray, cigars, old picture frame, walking sticks and old switchblade. When he asked me what I was buying today, I tell him, Mr. Afraid. It's a salute to all the business people who know how to innovate. If you can innovate in these COVID times and make a pawn shop, why we shouldn't celebrate that? He had sheepskin horseshoes for male and female. What? A 6-inch gun from a cowboy trail. Woman panties and powder puff. A flip and loaded right up with snuff. Rice bag, flour bag, honey and crate, nail files and shoemaker tax. Yes. When he asked me what I'm buying today, I told him, Mr. Relax. Play. Whitewash, white lime, all kind of rag. Yes. A piece of a German flag. Pillowcase, nighties, modest and socks. Rimless glasses and old matchbox. Timbrels, earring, eclipse and bead. Up came Constable Reed. What? He said, young man, you got a lot of nice things here that I really need. Here we are. But where you get this? Where you get that? Where did you get the superintendent hat? This nightie look like me neighbor own. Where you get that tenor saxophone? Let me go down like you own the whole of town. This time me hand on me mouth. Yes. When I read the evening news next evening, it was a whole tea from down in south.
It's a simple message melody saying, you know, you see when something too good to be true, just listen to the old people and tell you, you know. If something too good to be true, it probably ain't true. So, Leah, I mean, no, I don't want to discourage people. Now, if you have jewelry to pawn and thing, according to David Mohammed, Preeze, and soon to be Watson Duke, just mark my words, this is the place to go and carry your thing, because don't go and carry it by the Chinese and the Syrian and the 1% and make them rich. Go and carry it by your African brother. Just remember Lord Melody. And just remember that fellow who was selling everything in that song, just remember where he ended up in the end. Just remember which part he ended up. All right, I want to wrap up this episode with one of my favorite songs from Duke. I think I played the first song I play would be easily one of my favorites as well, because that little dancing song, Evelyn, whenever we dance, that's just putting a nice little mood, you know what I mean? But they have a song again, you know, heavily influenced by what my father and them tell me was Parang long time. I didn't know. It's all the time Kaiso them singing and playing no Parang whatsoever. But this was a song that he used to sing a lot. And Duke, again, as a bacchanal man, I ain't played none of these serious Duke songs, you know. But as a bacchanal man and a fellow who know how to put together stories, and especially when it comes to Little Lackery and Kankalang, which, I mean, that's right up my alley. This is one of the better ones from him when it comes to storytelling, or one of my favorites, I should say, at least. You tell me if you know it. Arrangement and things sweet to it, boy.
12 o'clock midday in the burning heat.
Yes. A madman in the nude walk in Frederick Street.
Just around the time
Man
people
looking
going
to eat. Yes. A madman in the news walking Frederick Street. I turn my head, yes. I turn my head left, I turn my head right. I can't see not one policeman in sight.
Traffic jam from
Back to Salvatore.
people making smoke ladder fighting to see. But look here, some girls turn their face.
Some cover their eye. One say by his waist, and next one say why.
About the vendor, we just call 610. Say she know the fella from way back when. Take a towel and throw it wrong the waist, please.
The husband say, why let the man take breeze if you see him streaking, freaking. What are you doing? Freaking, streaking.
Look how we posing.
Streaking, freaking.
Look how we walking.
Freaking, streaking.
But there's big commotion now in the town. People running up, people running down.
A taxi driver stretching his neck to see. Run the car right inside Mirage Jewelry. Or ANZ.
Mistress McIntosh, a big socialist, say, my gosh,
Tell me what is this?
I don't believe a big man walking down this way. I just feel it's a dance in here one day. That day was
Commence in a magnitude. All spectators well dressed. This man in the nude.
the ladies inspecting from head to toe. Some saying, oh my, and some saying, oh. This time the madman like he love the publicity. If you see how he
Making the gallery, if you see him streaking, freaking.
look how he posing,
Freaking, streaking,
look how he doing,
streaking, freaking,
watch how he walking.
freaking, streaking.
If you see the crowd,
You can't stick a pin. Some laughing out loud and some giggling.
a fella thief a jeep and driving away. Mashy breaks to Pete, they jam him right there. A woman nearby, they call Madam Trim. Take off the hair tie to cover it. Put this round your waist, man, have some respect. You know the head or the
Tie
tie.
it around in neck.
A bank clerk named Anne.
Yes, in big trouble now.
Because she recognized the man.
But shame to say how.
He's a big businessman, is all she admits. She friend tell me, yes, girl, I seen it. But like he business drop, so before he fail, he just advertising.
He having sale if you see it. Streaking, freaking. What how he posing?
Freaking, streaking. Look what he doing. Streaking, freaking. Look how we laughing. Freaking, streaking. What what he doing. Streaking, freaking. What how we laughing. Freaking, streaking.
Watch how we moving. Alright, I'm feeling that you're not in the mood when I play. I can't play one and all. Let me just play one more, right? My next favorite one. You know, you had to mind the I tell you, Duke hard to find online. You know. There's another one I grew up hearing, playing home and thing. I sing this for Stacy all the time too. Because I tell you, listen, how much time I tell Ole again over here? You know what I see Stacy doing recently? She, anything we get home here, right? You know, when you get a little bank statement and them thing is cut up that, right? You don't really put any garbage just so. You want to cut it up to make sure no bank balance and your name and your address, nothing. Well, Stacey just cut up everything, Papa? So when we get, whether it's error post, no matter who send a receipt here, she just spend time to cut it out. I see the other day we trying to get rid of some old thing. And I have some sneakers and thing I don't wear. I see she with her scissors now with these sneakers. I say, but where you going? I say, you're cutting up these sneakers. I say, somebody may wear that again, but somebody could use that. You know she just cut out the sneakers tongue before she throw away the sneakers. So I don't know if it's Mother Cornhucks who guides she dies what you have to do, cut out all the sneakers tongue so you go can't talk to no woman. I don't know what the science is. But so I sing this song for all the time. This is from Duke. The name of it is Vizina, right? Don't mind the quality, right? Just listen. 1 foot Vizina, pick up a ring. 1 foot Vizina, just get a ring. From the day she married, Vizzy get left-handed, and anything that she had to do is the ring on the finger she's showing you. If you hear she, I am Mistress Joseph, I ain't 1 foot Vizzy again. I am Mistress Joseph, you had to put handle to my name. I know I have a legal husband, I'm a highfalutin woman. All you look at me, Vizzy I reach in society. And if you see the man who put gold ring on Vizzy in a hand, them two really match. Is a faulty from South, they just call him Scratch. Every week Scratch make you in jail. If he outside, you sure he on bail. Them school children just make she hold. When they start with Vizina, tip where they fall. And if you hear she, I am Mistress Joseph, I ain't 1 foot Vizzy again. Call me Mistress Joseph, I had to put handle to my name. I'm a highfalutin woman. Vizzy get a ring in society. Give me a maternity dress. Part of she belly, she in pregnancy. Oh, she in pain. Let's respect Mr. Joseph, wife. I am Mrs. Joseph, I ain't 1 foot Vizzy again. Call me Mrs. Joseph, you had to put handle to my name. I know I have a legal husband, I'm a highfalutin woman. Only look at me, Vizzy a ring in society.
When you watch Vizzy in the market,
Yes.
But she found out I was sweating at so much thing that she like. On the street and I think she get one of them that. And I let me stop right over. Then stop it loud for people to hear. Why you don't
And the things in the market there. I am Mr. Joseph. I am on foot busy again. You got to put handle to my name. I'm a highfalutin woman. All you look at me, busy as a ring in society. Right, so that's Duke, right? So I said I had to do something with Duke in mind because, again, 4 Calypso Monarchs straight is one of the greatest. I was talking about Kitchener and how dominant he was in the panorama space, but that had to be one of the greatest feats we ever see in Calypso. And to have a record from 68, so 68 to 71 is the years he win it, right? And then come and win Road March in 87. Who will be the one to repeat that? 4 years straight. We have plenty of people with that. It's not to say we don't have people now in the Monarch, you know. And one other thing before I go to, like doing the research for that, I realized that somewhere in the early 2000s, they had changed the Calypso Monarch from 2 songs to 1 song. I guess a part of it would be because the length of the show started to become a problem. Our attention span shorter and all that now. We know how that goes. We can watch Test cricket again. We could watch T20. Maybe I should not bring that back up. But a part of it as well was there wasn't getting any quality of contributions for men to come with 2 songs. So they changed it. But I didn't realize that there were times before when it was just 1 song. So when you're looking back through the history of Calypso Monarchs, some people win with 1 song and some people win with 2 songs. But either way, even if you're making 1 song, who come in and win that 4 years straight? Like you could think of a few with Marshall winning. Well, that was Soca Monarch where he win a few straight, Marshall and Voice. And then kind of come out of the competition eventually. I didn't know who would have beat Voice if he had stayed. Marshall was always looking like he was planning to do 3. But who gonna be the person to step up to do 4? Chucky? Karen Ashe? Who we have now that are gonna do it? It's just one of them amazing feats in our history in Calypso. So I thought I would do that this episode. So I will see you all next week. Bye.